Hey, I was going over some different files that we have in crates that are in this room, and I happened to find an old insurance policy from my father-in-law. Now, this one was written out in 1953. I'm not sure if it's worth anything, but when we think about this, and this was written as well as when we write out insurance policies for our family to protect us, to feel secure. We're looking for insurance. And the believer in Jesus Christ can find some wonderful insurance whenever we say, we want to know, whenever we die, are we going to a good place? Are we going into the favor of God, in the love of God? And here's what I find interesting in the last two chapters of Revelation. It's like God says, the present heaven for my children is not good enough. I'm going to make it even better. Now, I'm not exaggerating. Take a look at Revelation chapter 21 and verse 1. And it says here, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth passed away." And it's saying this, well, when somebody dies today, they're going to the present heaven. But in the end times, in Revelation chapter 21 and 22, tell us that there's going to be a new residence for the believer. As a matter of fact, this has been prophesied all the way through the scriptures. Isaiah 66, verse 22 says, "I'm making a new heavens and new earth." And it says in Isaiah chapter 65 and verse 17, "I'm making a new heaven and a new earth, and it's going to be so fantastic." The Bible tells us that everything else will compare. The best of this world will be nowhere as good as that. 2 Peter chapter 3 tells you about the dissolving of the present existence and the introduction of the new heaven and the new earth. And in verse 13 of 2 Peter chapter 3, it says that this is going to be a place where righteousness feels right at home. That's what the Greek says. It says righteousness dwells. It's going to feel right at home. Now, with all this glory and all this design by God Himself, the greatest designer in the history of mankind, the greatest architect, builder, the one most creative, and it's all for this. In Isaiah chapter 60 and verse 21, we'll willingly agree with this. He says, "I've done this for my glory. I've done this," as we read it in the Bible here, "that I may be glorified, says the Lord." And we're going to rejoice in that. And we'll talk some more about that in our other videos. But it says this, and we go to what some people consider the obscure book of Habakkuk. And Habakkuk starts talking about this new earth. And he says something that we should take to heart. He says in chapter 2 and verse 14, "Then on this new earth, the whole earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of God, just like the waters cover the sea." It says that everybody will be awash with the knowledge of the glory of God. God's glory will not be hidden from us. It won't be a mystery anymore. We'll realize it and understand it and rejoice in it fully. We'll talk some more about this. We're going to talk about that new earth that will be the final destination of the believer.